Nothing that is worth, like, that's going to help you grow feels comfortable. It feels uncomfortable. And it's what we tell our clients, which is like sometimes when they're investing and they're really stretching themselves, but that's what you're doing something that you need to do. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard taking that plunge, but believe me, it's worth it. If you hire the right person, you're going to get on the next level, right? There's no one that I've met that has hired the right admin that has not went to the next level after they hired that admin.
Building a successful real estate career requires you to adapt, pivot, and constantly master new skills.
We're Katie and Daniel Steinfeld. We've built our own innovative brokerage, and in this podcast, we've assembled actionable tips and strategies that you can implement to take your business to its maximum potential.
It's time to level up. Level up. Level up. Level up.
Welcome, everybody, to this session of Level Up. We are here with Nasma Ali, founder of One Group. Thank you. Founder of One Group. I mean, I think all of you guys know who Nasma is. She is just an amazing team leader, amazing realtor, amazing businesswoman. And I think we all follow her on Instagram. Her stories are so, like, they just draw you right in, and you're so good at it. And just so much education that you bring to not only your clients and the people that you work with, but also us in the industry. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. There's so many people that you could have asked to come and be part of this. I'm so honored.
I mean, this is kind of it's a cool twist on things, right? Because people hear Nasma speaking. Oh, are we going to be talking about Instagram stories? Like, wait a second, everybody. Wait a second. There's a lot more layers to this onion.
Yeah. There's more to me than just Instagram stories.
Yeah. So honestly, we get, and it's such a commonly asked question and discussion that's ongoing among realtors, new, old, team leaders, all sorts of folks in the industry about the help they get, the help they need, understanding the process. And so we just really want to dive in, and we know that I don't know the full story, but we want to learn more about, the journey you've had with assistants and different approaches you've taken. And hopefully we're just going to talk it through. And everybody who's watching, obviously, like always, throw in questions in real time. We'll get to them as they come in.
I would love the questions, because I feel like I don't want to be rambling on about something that's not really, relevant to people or interesting or of value. So I would love, please, I mean, how many people are on here? 28. Please, ask whatever questions you have, because that's going to help us. We don't have talking points. We're really just winging it. So, but I mean, the journey, I think my second year is or third year is when I think it was the second year, I hired someone. And I want to look back, because I think a lot of people right now, maybe most people, are thinking of hiring their first admin. So I think that's going to be much more of use to people that they can relate. Yeah. I remember when I was like underwater, and I was like, I didn't have time to like really hire or look for people or whatever. So one good way of finding admins, I mean, I know we're going to talk about that later, but is word of mouth, and kind of like, if someone, talk to your mortgage brokers, the people that you use, talk to the lawyers that you use, people who want to see you succeed, people who have kind of a vested interest in you succeeding. They're going to want to send you quality people. So if they know someone, they're going to recommend a quality person, right? First person I hired was, I think it was like my second year. It was the second year. And I was really slammed with work. I didn't have time to hire. I looked at Indeed and like all of those, LinkedIn, whatever. And I was really overwhelmed, because how do I know who's good? How do I know who's bad? And it's just like, you need to actually have the time to go through the CVs and, interview people. And anyway, it was just too overwhelming. So a great way for me to find someone was, I asked around, and again, that's one tip I would give, is ask the people who are your partners or, collaborators or whoever it is that you send business to. They're going to want to see you succeed. And they're, if they know anyone, they'll send you people of like quality people. Yeah. So I found someone who, through my mortgage broker, she connected me with someone. And yeah, I interviewed them. And what was good for me at the time is that this is someone who, and this is kind of another tip for someone who, if you're slammed and you don't have time to train people, if you can find someone who's experienced, and if you can find, I mean, this person was actually licensed. So they knew a lot. They used to be an agent, right? That was kind of a red flag for me if someone who was an agent, because my question is always, well, would you go back to being an agent? Because I don't want someone who's admin and then after a few months or a year, they're happy and they want to go back to being an agent. So just make sure that, you know, why did they get their license, right? But anyway, so they were experienced. So that really helped me, that it was like hit the ground running, right? They already knew a lot. And so the basic transactions, basic things, I already knew how to do. So I didn't have to hold their hand through everything, right? And then after that, I mean, I dabbled in like getting VAs, and it wasn't the best experience, but I have VAs now and they're incredible. I love them. And it was just a matter of finding the right people. And I think one time I hired someone and I was really, and this is a tip people also, I was really, really busy. So I didn't really have time to train and I didn't have time to micromanage or even manage at all. And so I just kind of told them, I'm like, hey, just advertise. Like, I think they were working like 10 hours a week. I was just like, I don't have time to give you tasks right now or train you. So can you just post stuff on Kijiji? Because in my mind, I was like, okay, that was at the time when you can actually get proper leads on Kijiji. Right now you can't, right? At the time you could like create 10 accounts on Kijiji and you'll get leads from buyers, right? Now it's just for leases. But anyway, I told her, listen, post, send me the links, right? Just so that I know that you're posting every day. And this is I got burned because 2 weeks later, I was like, let me see, because I never really talked to her. I wasn't managing her because I didn't have time. Let me see these links. So I clicked on one. I was like, this was posted 10 days ago. She's supposed to be posting every day. So obviously she was lying to me, but that's my fault. That's my fault, right? So that's, you know, again, it's like you need to, the best time to hire is when you're not slammed with work, like in your slow time, maybe December, November, August, July, because then you can really take your time and hire. And I remember the feeling I had when I hired the first person. It was like a lump in my throat. I was just like, oh my God, I you know, you feel like very overwhelmed and anxiety that you're responsible for somebody else's livelihood. Right. And they're counting on you to be paying them. There's no late payments. Like, you got to pay on time, and you have to, no matter what's going on with your business, you have to make sure that you're paying this person a stable amount every 2 weeks. And so that was very stressful for me at first, because I was like, you know, because in this business, you're just like, what if I don't make this amount in 6 months? What if I'm going through a bad month? And so it is stressful. And I know a lot of people feel that way, where it's just like, you know, this business is up and down. You can't guarantee. So that's why I think if you're hitting a certain number, like at least 200, I would say, then it makes sense to kind of hire someone. And also, one piece of advice that I was given, I know some people are just like, they don't want to take the commitment, have a commitment of having like a full-time person, or, you know, or salaried. And I got this advice from an agent friend of mine, used to be my mentor. And he basically said, you're not going to find a quality person that's hourly based. You need to hire a salaried person, like someone who wants that stability and commitment is going to be on a salary basis, not someone who's like temporary, part-time, hourly, right? If you're looking for something, you have to be ready to pay for it, right? So that's,
Interesting. So we can get in a few questions.
Yeah, there's a ton of, I have a ton of questions, but let's go to the ones that people are asking.
So Dennis was the best VA you have used. Nasma, who is the best VA you have used? Like, so do you have like, do you work with overseas companies or like anywhere?
Yeah. So I'll give you another tip. It's all the tips. I mean, the VA that I have is, there's VA companies everywhere, right? Like, and all over the world, really, there's people out there, right? The company that I used was, they're in the Philippines. And the reason I use them is because a friend agent of mine had really good success with this company because they found the diamond in the rough, which was like this person who was just so devoted, so hardworking. I'm telling you, you'll find those people. Those people are out there. And when you find them, you never want to let them go, right? And that's kind of, his situation. But that doesn't mean they're all the same, right? So anyway, so I hired a few from that company. And it was, again, it's one of those things, like some people might interview well. But then when it comes down to, I would say really trust your gut. But now what I do now is I don't hire from companies anymore. So what I do is that, I found this one solid person. She's amazing. And she has a huge network because she used to manage VAs. She's in the Philippines. She used to manage them. And so she has a very large network of people looking for work or VAs or whatever. And she's a good connector. And so she connected me. She had to go to EXP, darned EXP. So she went to EXP for some like bigger role or whatever. Right. And also the hours weren't good for me and her, but she connected me with one really quality person. And then when I needed another person, what I did, instead of going to a company, I spoke to this quality person and I said, hey, who do you know who's just like you? Right. And then she connected me with someone who's also a friend who's just incredible. And they're both the best. Right. So, yeah, I mean, you can start with companies and see what's out there. But definitely don't just hire fast. It's one of those things like hire slow, fire fast.
Right. It's Gary
that took me a while.
Yeah.
That took me a while to like, it's hard firing people, but that's why you really need to make sure that who you're hiring is actually good. But yeah, are there any other questions?
Oh yeah, they're rolling in.
I think Andrew built on something you said before, which is so true. I think this is going to be a theme, that working with people who treat it like their own business, and people who, and you talked about that with the salary approach, when somebody feels an accountability to the work, and it's not just, post every 10 days and hope you don't find out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. That I think is going to be a consistent message to everybody in whatever they're looking for from an assistant.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that is one of those things. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to pay. And the other thing is also pay, right? I know that, I mean, you can tell me what your advice is. Like when I was hiring, the advice I was getting was, because the person I was hiring was kind of admin, but also like an operations person, right? They were in Toronto. And at the time, the advice I got was $40,000 a year.
Right.
Okay. But this person was licensed and experienced. They actually wanted way more than that. And I was like, oh my God, I can't afford this person.
Right.
So I kind of found the middle point where I think I offered like 50 plus a bonus for the first year to be a guaranteed bonus of like 10,000. Right. So that, because what they wanted was 60. Right. So I did 50 plus a 10K bonus. Right. And oh shoot, I'm hearing an echo. Okay, it's gone. But yeah, so for me, again, that's a big amount. Like being responsible to pay someone 50,000, like basically 60,000 a year. And I know you're always going to hear people that are going to come to you, be like I have a Montreal friend agent. He's making like $1 million a year or something, right? And I think we talked once about what we're paying our admins, and he was like, "What? Are you crazy? I'm paying 30,000 for mine. I'm paying 25,000 for mine." And it's just, don't listen to people. Like these things are always going to affect you. Nobody knows what it's like in your position, looking for, a quality person. And let's not forget, we're in Toronto. You can't compare, the salaries that your people expect in Toronto compared to Montreal. People come to Toronto because they want higher salaries. Okay. And also the pricing here, our commissions are double the ones that in Montreal. Right. So, I mean, it's one of those things. Try not to listen to the noise and listen to really what you need to do. Don't listen to people saying, oh, what are you doing? It's so expensive. Why do that? Go the easy route. I mean, right now I have an operations person who's in like Toronto. Right. But I have 2 VAs. right?
Okay.
And the goal is that I can, I can hire VAs as I need them for the tasks that I need. If I need one more person as the team grows, and then I can have someone managing the VAs. I don't need to be managing them. But yeah, I don't want to go off topic. I know it's like limited time.
Yeah.
But,
well, are those full-time VAs that you have right now? Like, it's one.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the VAs that I have, there's one person. I mean, I think I started with a lot of them kind of like part-time at first. Like I think it was like 20 hours a week, and just to kind of see how it's going. And as the work picked up, and that's kind of like the benefit is just that flexibility, and if the something doesn't go out well, nobody's going to come and sue you for whatever reason as an employer. We all know that's a risk, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I have one person that's part-time, and I have one person that's full-time. But the part-time, I looked for someone who's willing to do full-time, because I know that as we grow, I want, and my tip, I mean, listen, I can go on and on forever about VAs. There's so many things to talk about, like the time difference. There's a 12-hour time difference from here in the Philippines, right? So 5 a.m. here is 5 p.m. there. And so there's a lot of questions that I ask in the interviews, because I want to make sure that this is not like a temporary thing where like eventually the hours don't work for them anymore, and then they're like, oh, this is not working, right? I can't do this, like, after going through all the training. Somebody asked if I give them the credit card numbers and stuff and like my accounting stuff. Oh my God, there's so many comments. I'm gonna count on you guys to like figure out.
I think just building on that, Daniel asked a good question, is like, what are the differences between the tasks you give a VA and one that you give somebody that's here working like in person?
Yeah. So I have the operations person. I basically tell him, I want you to pretend I don't exist, because that's the whole goal, is that I'm not here, managing what's happening here. Like, let's say they do social media, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one looking on social media, making sure it's a good photo, high res, making sure the tags are good, making sure that it's been done. And like, he has to be doing that, right? He's managing them in a way. And then managing, let's say if we have listings, each person is doing their task. I want him to make sure that everything is being done. I don't want to wake up in a week from now and he's like, oh no, we didn't book the inspector. It's like, he needs to make sure that everything, again, pretend I don't exist, because that's the ultimate goal for any agent, really, is that all the details are handled in the background while you can focus on next, talk to people, right? And so I have him, and then I have somebody else who is salaried and is also in Toronto. And they do kind of two things. They manage my database and my leads and the lead assignment to agents, because what I found is that in a team, it's hard for me. I just, I'll give you an example. I think we had like 600 leads. Most of them are organic, 600 leads in the past like 2 months, let's say, right? Wow. So for me, it's just hard. Like, you can imagine, like, when we get those leads and I assign them, I forget about them. And I'm always like going on to the next. And I feel like my brain was going to explode with the amount of, like, when you keep thinking about, oh my God, what happened to this person? I totally forgot about that person. I need to follow up. I need to see if what happened, right? Are they still in touch with these people? And with agents, you always have to kind of be behind them, right? A lot of agents still need that push, still need someone to kind of follow up and see, have you forgotten about this person? How's it going with this person? And so I felt like I needed help with that. So I got someone to basically manage those leads, call agents, say, hey, how's it going with these people? Do you need more leads? Do you need less leads? Like, what's going on? And so it's kind of like a sales manager role plus / all of the accounting stuff. So they have access to my bank account, my credit cards, like everything. They are the liaison between me and the accountant. I don't even talk to my accountant. They talk to the accountant. It's just too much, especially, I'm sure you guys know, like having a brokerage or having a prec. Like when I had to transfer to having a prec, that was a huge pain because you have to transfer all your bank accounts, and then I have investment properties, and it's just, honestly, it's a full-time job. And so that was, I have a whole human being dedicated to that, like just that and the leads. And then, yeah, so I mean, I need to like stop every time because like I want to make sure that.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of the questions are different versions of breaking down the tasks of what everybody does.
So a VA would do what? What would the tasks of a
There's so much. I mean, what do they not do? That's, I think, the question. Okay, so they really do everything. Oh my God, you know what? They do everything. And I think it's a whole segment on like how to hire the right person. That's like a whole other thing that we can talk about like later. But what do they do? I mean, they will do listing agreements. Like they'll draft the listing agreement, the MLS agreement, like the MLS form, you know what I mean? Like the data form. They do all of that. And then it's like sitting in web forms where I review it, right?
Okay.
Review. Okay, it's all good. And then after I review it, either I put it in DocuSign if I'm in a hurry, but if it's during the day, like 9 to 5, whatever, then I say, okay, good to go. They put it in DocuSign, they send it to the client. Okay. If I have to write some last minute offer, like usually the agents are writing the offers for them, but if I have to write some last minute offer and I'm on the road, I can't do it. I'll ask them, can you please draft an offer? And again, I review it. They input, I mean, they process all the deals from the team, right? So anytime a deal comes in from the team, you know how they have to send kind of like all the paperwork and so they send it to our admin, and then our admin sends it to Remax, like the office, and they process that. They, figure out what the split is. They put it in our dashboard. We have a spreadsheet that kind of displays on a dashboard where we can see all the metrics and, where we're at. So they input all that data into the spreadsheet. Then I have somebody else who's the part-time person who's doing all of, and other things, right? So like, for example, there's an event, I forward it to Mona and I say, please register me for this. And she knows, like, she'll register and she'll put on my calendar, right? They also input leads, right? So if I'm replying to someone who emailed me saying, hey, Nasma, I want to sell, I will reply to them and I'll BCC my admin. She knows that means she's going to input this person in our database, right?
Right.
So they basically input the leads that are coming to us, like our network, our database. They input those in the database as well, and they are fully trained on the tagging and everything. It's like what's the word? It's like a factory where it's just everything has a process. And if there is no process, I don't just want to do a one-off. I want to figure out, okay, let's figure out how what's a checklist for this. Oh, and that's another thing. We have like Asana, which is a project management tool. And I mean, we use that. They have checklists. They have checklists for everything, right?
Right.
And then what I'm trying to do now is that one of the VAs, they have they're doing only social media. They're doing it part-time, but that's very time consuming. They know how to use Canva. They know how to post it on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, like you name it, right? And that takes a lot of time, all the just solds and just listed, whatever. But now what I want them to start training on, they're like, she's super smart, is being kind of a listing coordinator. Meaning, whenever we go to a listing, there's a lot of vendors and things that we need to coordinate and communicate between the client. And it's very time consuming for an agent when you're trying to coordinate painters and like contractors and quotes and appointments and inspectors and cleaners. And so I want this person to kind of like start doing that as well, where they're just in communication with the client. And
that's awesome.
I'm going to circle back to talking about the paperwork part. Especially when you talk about the time difference, like if you've got someone 12 hours behind, 12 hours ahead, so the first part of the question is, does that still work? Okay. When you've got stuff that's time sensitive, and when it is time sensitive, how does that work? And then the other part of that question is what's the mechanism to get them the information they require to populate this stuff? So if you're doing, I don't know, a data sheet or a listing agreement or whatever, is there some sort of a system you've created on your end where you fill out some sort of form, send it off to them, and then they know what to do with it? Is that how you're working with them?
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, like the time difference is not really a problem because the people that I choose are people who are able and willing to work 9 to 5, right? or like 9 to 2 or whatever during the day, right? Because otherwise it's just very challenging. They don't work weekends, they don't work evenings, and I don't expect them to. I want them to be happy. There's a reason a specific type of person wants to be in a more like 9 to 5 role. They want a life, and that's okay. We don't have a life, but we can't expect them to not want to have a life, right? But I so love and appreciate them, and they're like, if ever I did ask a question in a weekend on WhatsApp, like they'll actually respond, which I don't expect them to, but if they do, it's like, it's so nice, honestly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I see an email from them on a weekend, like, oh, so sweet. Like, anyway, it's one of those things where it's nice when you don't expect it, right? But when they do it, you actually appreciate that it was done. But anyway, so that's that. And then the other question about MLS, everything, like, I mean, listen, when we are looking at like the MLS data form, we usually use the like the past, the history on MLS, right? So I've trained them on how to search for that stuff. I've trained them on how to book showings, because I was doing showings in the beginning, and I trained them on how to book showings. If I'm showing 10 houses, they know how to go on the map. I mean, for some of you agents who are still working with buyers, this is good too. They can book all of your showings. There was a time when, I mean, they go to the map, they look, okay, 15 minutes away, it's going to take you about like a half-hour showing, and then 15 minutes, okay. And then they would book it like usually from where I was in that time. If I was at my place or if I was in another meeting, that's point A. So what's the closest thing to there? That's the first showing. Anyway, and then they send me an email with literally like the broker version of all the listings, and kind of like a table or spreadsheet of address, lockbox, extra information, even the agent's phone number in case of emergency, right? If the thing doesn't work. Also, if it's vacant or not. Because if I'm like running late and there's a tenant in there or an owner, I need to know to like, hey, I'm late. If it's vacant, I mean, if I'm late, it's fine, Yeah. But anyway, and there was a time when I was so busy, I didn't even know where I was going. I would just get in my car and I look, okay, point A, drive. That's it, drive. I don't need, and then while I'm in there, I look at broker version, the link, I open it up and I see like, okay, this is, the information, this is how much this house is and everything. But yeah, so for MLS, they're trained on, but the key is really to review everything, right? You can't just depend on, you can't, right? No. I mean, I'll review everything. And even when I review, I mean, I've seen the house. Sometimes I forget. So we give it to the client, then the client says, oh, you have to change this and that. So, I mean, it's fine. But yeah, so they're amazing. It's so helpful. And I'm sure some people, I mean, I feel like nobody has asked how much, right? Do you guys care to know how much, like for VAs?
I do.
Like taboo. Yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on, guys, come on, more questions. Like, there's 40 people. There has to be more questions than that.
Well, Andrew asked how do you hold your admittance accountable? I don't know if that's something that you have to do a lot of, or I guess with the training it's less.
Yeah, it's such a fine line, because on the one hand, you don't want to be an annoying manager and micromanage to the point where they feel like you don't trust them, right? And I just feel like it's one of those things where I hired it again, it goes back to the initial interview and hiring the right person, and having trust that they're doing the work they're supposed to. Keep in mind also, like, sometimes their internet is not perfect. By the way, that's another tip why it makes sense to maybe hire like 2 different VAs or 2 part-time VAs instead of 1 person, because if their internet is down, and that happens in that part of the world, right? If their internet is down, what are you going to do? And you're like slammed and you have things, and you have a listing that's going live that day. Like, you know what I mean? So it pays to have like 2 people, because it's kind of like a backup person, right? And to make sure that they're both trained on the same thing, even if they both have their separate tasks. So how do you hold them accountable? I mean, in my case, I have my operations person who is monitoring. He knows what they're doing, right? There are deliverables, and by the way, everybody is working from home. And by the way, that's another thing. I've never had an office where I'm going into the office and my operations, or even before Corona, where people were in front of me working. They were always at home. I remember my last person that worked with me for about 2 years, the person that was recommended, we were so slammed. He was working, he was a hard worker from 9 to 5 nonstop, like my inbox was just filled with emails. It's like I would, let's say everybody's slammed. I'd be slammed, and then I'd finish a meeting, let's say an hour later, and I look at my inbox. You know, when you look at your inbox and it populates, and then when I see his name, I'm like, everything's taken care of. Like, it's all taken care of, you know, it's handled, you know what I mean? So I don't need to worry.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, how to hold accountable. If you feel like they're not doing the work, it also could mean that you haven't given them enough tasks to do, right? If they're just like not, if you feel like they're not doing anything, maybe they don't have enough to be doing. And also another thing that I'll give you a tip is, it's a good tip. I mean, okay, the help. Oh, one sec. Let me just see. Okay, yeah, a good tip to for like if you're gonna hire someone is what I had like admins do from the beginning is, especially when they start, like the first ever person. I said, you know what? Let's create a manual. Okay, so like a training manual, right? Ideally with video, because it's so much easier watching a video or a screen capture of how something is done rather than reading, right?
Exactly.
So I try to do that for every task, right? And so because then if you're thinking about scaling and like if you want to hire more people, it's easier to do that rather than to have like smart. Train one by one everybody. So there's a manual. I mean, usually we have a manual for everything. And also we communicate with each other. I mean, I want to give a shout out to Sarah Locken, who is of North Group, from North Group. She's their operator. She's incredible. I love her. She's a wealth of knowledge. And I've actually went to her so many times for advice and help and tips throughout all these years. She's just, she's really smart and she knows what she's doing. And anyway, so she helped me. I mean, I watched also I think you guys had that, right? Was it you? I don't know, or was it their own Facebook group? I remember they had like a systems kind of, and so they do the same thing, which is like they have Asana for checklists and things like that. And then they have, we use Slack for communication within our team. So every time you have a channel, which is like a listing, it's easier to communicate between all of us because we know what's happening. We have a channel for social media. We have a channel for lead management. We have a channel that's just like operations general. So anyway, but yeah, the cost, I don't really say. I mean, some companies will charge you like $10 Canadian. Some will do $8 Canadian. I'm paying them directly, so it's kind of like you're looking at, I mean, $4 or $5 is really low. I mean, you could be $5 to $6, let's say. That's kind of like what you would be paying someone maybe in the Philippines, in India, same thing, I think. But yeah, and then the language, I mean, they have perfect English. Again, it goes back to you like interviewing, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to have perfect English. A lot of these people, by the way, are educated, university educated. Anyway, that's one of the questions I ask. I mean, I have like a very specific, like, I ask a lot of questions in the interviews, and usually it's not just one interview. You know, I kind of try to take my time. I get Carl, my operations guy, to speak to them first. If he likes them, then I speak to them. Then I might have another interview. And then one tip I got from Sarah, which I love, is that I get them to do a test. It's an online test, and actually that really helps because my pet peeve is grammar and people not knowing how to spell stuff, right? Like there or there. That's such a pet peeve that I have. And so, and I just feel like, you know, if you have a certain level of, you know, and for client facing, you have to be at a certain level, and I don't want an email full of mistakes. It just doesn't look good. Right. So that's one of, you know, that might not be something important to you, but for me, it is important. And so I want them to have a test, and they might be the best, but if their spelling is like 60%, 50%, it's a no. Okay. Right. So no matter how much I love them, right? No matter how great they are and friendly and everything, But
what kind of a test?
Yeah, they're asking like what kind of test. I mean, if you go online, there's a bunch of like websites that will offer a test. I think it's like 10, 20. I think, no, sorry. I think it's like $20 maybe US or something, but per test, you could just pay per test, and you can choose what kind of test do you want? Do you want a math test? I mean, for them, they're not really going to use math. They know basic math, right? But for me, it was just like, I need like spelling and kind of maybe logic and some other things. Yeah, so I was going to say something else about the testing, but yeah, that's fine. Oh yeah, one more thing. I don't know if you guys believe in it. Like in Keller Williams, they were really big on this, the disc profile.
Yeah, we did that recently.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, sometimes you can speak to someone and you can get what they are. And for me, if they're a D, no, thank you. I don't want D. But I don't know who said this. Yeah, it's just like, I think Barbara Brindle at Remax, she was like, there's only room for one D in this room. Like there's, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, you know, and again, it's one of those things that it's just, again, personality. I'm not huge on I. I is like, you know, someone who's chatty and talkative. And for me, I just feel like, yeah, it's pleasant, but are they going to get the work done, or are they going to be bored with the work and they just want someone to chat with?
Right.
I don't want that. I want someone who's doing the work. You shouldn't be hiring someone who's you. You don't want a you. You want someone who's not you, right? That's why you're not doing this. You're not good at it. Okay. You need someone who's organized. You need someone who's like methodical. And so the best profile is SC really, or CS or whatever. And again, some people might interview well, but you know, when you give them the test, or, you know, when you talk to them again, or when you ask them some questions, there's just like maybe a red flag. Follow your gut. I really believe in that. But yeah, you were going to ask something else?
No, I just going, Dennis asked, how do you invoice right off the VA as a business expense?
Oh, I pay through PayPal, and I just send it to my account.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. There's no HST. That's another thing. Like there's no 13%. I'm just like paying that flat Canadian fee, and that's it, you know? Yeah. But,
so can I'm going to bring it back to, I'm sure a good chunk of the people watching don't yet have an assistant, have never had an assistant, and they're really curious about diagnosing when the time comes, like, when do I make that jump? How do I know that I'm in the weeds to the point that I should look for one? Or is it the moment I think I'm in the weeds, that's, you know, red flag number one?
Yes, people. That's a good point. That's well said.
Yeah. So is that what you would say to them? If people are really at the point where they're saying to themselves, I love everything you're saying, I'd love someone to help me, but I don't really know if I need it right now. Like, what would you say? Is it better to do it before you need it so that you never get to that point?
100%. I mean, honestly, if we're going to look at numbers, I just feel like once you're at 200, 250, you definitely need someone, you know? And the other thing I see, you shouldn't see this as an expense. You should see this as an investment, because when you're going to pay someone to take off your plate all the things that you should not be spending time on, you're going to actually do more business. You're not going to feel overwhelmed. Like there was the time when I had a new listing, I almost felt overwhelmed more and stressed more than happy about getting the listing. I felt like, how am I going to do this? Like, I got to go home. And if you're doing paperwork until 11 p.m., you need an assistant. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing paperwork until midnight, you know? There's a lot of tasks. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you need to pay someone who's good at doing that, and you can focus on other things. And is this, you know, calculate what your 250 or what your 300, what your GCI is per year. You know, what's your hourly rate? $500? Like, why are you doing a 20 an hour job? Why? That's not a 500 an hour job. That's a 20 an hour job, right? I mean, it's the same thing for people who like want to stage the house as well, or they want to, you know, spend time when the photographer's there. Like, why? Let the person who's, you know, if you trust them, let them do their job. We don't need two people there. Like, you can spend that time generating leads and getting more business, right? And that's going to help you more. I'm such a strong believer that if you have the right people in place, you can focus on what you need to do and you can grow. You know, if you don't have the right people in place, then you can't grow. and you're always going to be stressed about what they're doing. What are they doing? Are they even working? Like, you know what I mean? You just don't have the right person there. But take the plunge. It's never going to be easy. There's never going to be a time where you're going to be like, I am so comfortable hiring someone for 50K or 60. I want to give my money away. You're never going to feel that.
On the phone right now.
Yeah, like you're always going to feel stressed about it. You're always going to feel, oh my God. But it's the same thing that we tell our clients, by the way. You know, nothing that is worth, like, that's going to help you grow feels comfortable. It feels uncomfortable. And it's what we tell our clients, which is like sometimes when they're investing and they're really stretching themselves, but that's what you know you're doing something that you need to do. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard taking that plunge, but believe me, it's worth it. If you hire the right person, you're going to get on the next level, right? I don't think there's no one that I've met that has hired the right admin that has not went to the next level after they hired that admin. Unless you're hiring the admin to take it easy poolside and just do nothing. Right. If that's what you're hiring the admin for, that's good for you. Just don't expect to get on the next level. Right. But that's, you know,
yeah, that's it.
But some people, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people, like, my purpose in getting a whole bunch of people in place when I tell Carl, like, imagine I'm not there, is because I want to have times where I can spend with my kids and not have to worry every little detail. Right. Like, I want someone who's just combing through our website every few days and be like, no, this shouldn't actually be there, or combing through our social media. Oh, we need to change this. We need to improve this. You know what I mean? Instead of me doing that and always stressing about, like, what do I need to check? What do I need to look at? Right. Yeah. So anyway.
No, that's great. So, okay. So we're going to finish up. I know Jessica had a couple of questions that were really good.
That was fast.
Yeah, we could keep going, but I want to be respectful of your time. So
I'm good if people are good.
Yeah. We'll finish up with these last couple comments. If anybody wants to come in as well with
You've got people operating as if you're not there, so you don't need to be
exactly.
there.
I'm good. I'm totally good.
That's why we're here.
Okay, so Jessica asked, as you grow, do you find a balance for the assistants to help the team, or are they more operational overall? For example, are you providing assistants that book all the showings for all of your team members? No. And do you have anyone working over the weekend or evenings?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if you want, by the way, that's another thing. If you feel like you really need someone in evenings and weekends, you can find, again, someone who's willing to do those hours. And that's why, again, going back to like VA is good, because they do, you know, that's a good hour for them because it's during their daytime. And for showings, no, but I always feel like that's something that I'll offer if they reach a point where they're very busy. And they're too busy and they're overwhelmed. And we've had like those times during spring and whatever, where, you know, some agents are just like, they're the top performers, you know. I'm not going to do that for agents who can't even lead generate, and they're not even, you know, why? Right. So, I mean, you know, I went through that. So it's like, you can go through that. But if, you know, some of the agents might be, you know, top performers and they're like, they don't have time for these little tasks. Yeah, I might help and be like, you know, don't worry, we'll draft the offer for you, or we'll, you know, book that showing for you. Don't worry about it. But we don't do that. We have like 11 agents. It's hard to be like offering that to everybody. And I feel like that's a good incentive to offer for agents, which is like, listen, if you reach a certain level, you know, we'll have an admin do these tasks for you, right? And if you can maintain that level, right? So yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. Daphne asked, why do so many agents go through so many admins?
Well,
I guess you're not asking the right question.
I think part of that,
we answered a lot of that.
Addressed a lot of that with finding a fit. Now, I guess there's a question for you though. Like, where do you balance? Obviously, the gold standard is finding someone who fits with you personality-wise and someone who's capable of doing the work to the standard that you want. Would you say, if you had to weigh the two, assuming absolute perfection isn't out there, someone wants an assistant, should they put more stock into someone who's a really good personality fit, both from maybe a disc perspective, like you find a good SC who does the work, or someone who kills the work and is manageable, right? Like where would you take your priority, or does that depend on the person?
I mean, it depends on the person, because some people want, and also it depends, is this person in place, like in Toronto? like that you're going to be
if you're
calling
seeing
and
them every
talking
day, it
to,
might be
and
different.
I mean, you might want someone who's, but honestly, for me, I would sacrifice personality for someone who's going to get the job done.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and someone that you trust
yeah,
and you can rely on, right? Relying on someone is huge for me. And there was another thing too, like, I just feel like sometimes some people, like, I'll tell you another thing, like, I've had one person that, you know, they do their 9 to 5. After that, they just kind of feel like they don't want to be bothered, right? I'm not saying hire someone who has an attitude. Like, personality is important to a certain point. They don't have to be your best friend, right? Or like the person who's just going to give you compliments. Oh, you're amazing. You're this, you're that. Maybe some agents like that for their ego, but like, yeah. But I mean, you know, when I say not personality, obviously I don't want to work with someone with an attitude. I don't want to work with someone who's just like snapping back at me or like talking back or questioning, or, you know, of course we're not talking about that. But at the same time, the attitude counts a lot. And if you treat them well, they're going to want to, and if they feel like there's some sort of extra maybe compensation later for that type of behavior, you know, if you ask them for something in a weekend, they're going to be responsive. Don't expect, like, if you're going to pay someone's salary, 50K, 60K, whatever, don't expect that they're going to want to be at your beck and call on a Saturday, Sunday, every weekend. That doesn't mean they're not a team player if they're not that person. They're not getting your 200, 300K.
yeah.
Like, you're getting paid, you know, a lot. Like, they're not getting that amount. So don't expect them to be working like you, right? But I do feel like if they are completely unresponsive on evenings and weekends, I'm not talking about VAs. I'm talking about, like, if you're paying someone salaried where there's like a vision, like, you know, you're part of something big, we're going to grow, you're going to become manager, you're going to become director, you're going to become whatever. I feel like, it's not that I expect, but it would be nice if in the one time you need them in that weekend, they do respond. They want to help you. They're not like, sorry, I'm not on my computer, right? Like, the attitude is different. Somebody saying like, sorry, I'm not on my computer, versus someone saying like, ooh, I'm just out, I'll get it for you in a bit. Like, it's a different attitude completely, right? The first one is someone that doesn't give a shit about you, doesn't really care to help you, and is almost like, how dare you interrupt me, you know, on a weekend. So anyway, but I mean, I've had, yeah. And also, you want someone who can learn fast, right? I mean, listen, I'll just say quick for the training, like some of the questions that I asked. I mean, I asked them, I'm sure you can Google, you know, a bunch of questions that you can ask, but some of the things that I like to know is, what did you like most about your last job? Because if they're going to tell me, oh, I love the people and talking to the people, and for me, it's like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Right. Yeah. And if they say, and I also ask, what did you hate the most about your last job? That's different than just, you know, and if they tell me, oh, it was just tedious, and I'm like, man, this work is tedious. Like, the work that you're going to be doing is tedious. You know, I don't want someone who's going to think it's boring and tedious.
I had to read.
I had to read. But, you know, like things like that. Or for example, another thing I ask them is kind of like, you know, do you have any obligations? Do you have someone who, you know, do you need to take care of anybody? Maybe their kids are grown. And I mean, speaking specifically about the Philippines, you know, it's good that if they need the money, because then they will, like, if they need to support their family, you know, that they're not going to just at the slightest inconvenience, they're going to leave the job, right? They're people who are hardworking and they want a job, right?
Yeah.
And if they say, and also you ask them, like, what's your goal? You know, if their goal is to be an agent, you know, or if their goal is, oh, I want to be like, you know, a teacher or a social media manager or have my own business. As soon as someone tells me have my own business, for me, it's like, I don't want an entrepreneur. Like, that's, you know, at any moment, they're just going to pack up and leave. Right. So again, it's just longevity. And also I like to know what are the things that they enjoy. You know, what are your best traits, right? So sometimes they'll say I'm a fast learner. I love when they say that. When they say they're a fast learner, or it's not bullshit, because not everybody says they're a fast learner. You know, some people might be like, I don't know, oh, I'm on time or whatever, right? But some people don't say. I actually look for people who say they're fast learners, because then, you know, they get it, because you're on like 100 miles an hour. And you want people who just get it. You say, hey, please do this, please do that. Like, it's brutal when you're trying to explain every detail and like spoon feed information, right? But yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, the one thing we did with when we were looking for an admin was we asked in the subject line to say, it was like the most random thing.
It was something like, was it profane?
I finally found
my peeps. Yeah, I found my peeps is what they had to send us in their application.
Right. And that just because we wanted somebody that was detail oriented. And so if they didn't read through the whole job description, they wouldn't have seen that requirement. So 90% of people did not put that in there. No. And that's how we weeded out everybody, just because we need a detail-oriented person. We can't have somebody that's gonna miss things, because that obviously we know that's part of the job.
It's like
detail-oriented.
Spelling mistakes, things like that. I mean, it's got to be a focus. There's so many people who want jobs and who want to apply, and you need to be able to weed people out as much as you need to be able to find the right person. Like I remember the red flags you're talking about. It's so important for you as an interviewer to be looking for those things as well. Like I remember when I hired at the football team and people would apply there, everyone would say, when I say, why do you want this job? I'm passionate about football. I'm like, okay, well then buy a ticket. That's not what I'm hiring for. You know what I mean? And but they think that people say what they think you want to hear. Like you said, oh, I love people. I'm a leader. I'm a team player. Okay, great. Cancel all that out and let's get to the meat of what you are and what I'm looking for.
So true.
So yeah, you're bang on with really looking for those buzzwords and things to see if they're hitting home with what you're actually looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think like how you started out, it's like you're the type of person, like you are so strong at what you do, and it's all sales and meeting people and making new connections. And I think a lot of us, if we really take the time to audit what we do in our day, I would say at least 50% of that is social media, doing listings, like the paperwork, all of that kind of stuff. And just imagine if you could take, 50% of that and bring it over to somebody else so that you can focus 100% of your attention. It's just 100%. And that's why you go to the next level. It makes so much sense, but I feel like a lot of people feel that like something's holding them back. But I think what you've provided in terms of like the advice and just going out there, and it's going to be uncomfortable, is great advice. So hopefully that pushes people to kind of take their business to the next level.
And it's even even email templates, like honestly, everything that you do all the time, make a process for it. And that's it. Now it's set in stone. They like a closing email, a congratulations email. Why are you doing that stuff? Get someone else to do it. I know some people that have a fake assistant. It's not a real one. They have a fake Gmail account and they actually send it from the assistant's name saying, congratulations, John. Here is it's them. It's them. They're sending it from a fake Gmail to pretend they have an assistant because it looks good. So for me, it's like, why don't you get an assistant, right? Because it's going to look even more proper in front of clients when you have like a proper establishment, a business. You're running a business, right? You're not just like a one-person show. Nobody wants to, nobody wants like that one-person show. They want to feel like everything is organized. But how large is your team? Yeah, we're about like 12 agents and 4, let's say, staff, 4 people, working staff plus like a stager. Okay. Oh, nice. People liked it. That's good. Yeah.
And so, okay. So one last question, like what is your vision for One Group in the next 5 years, 10 years? What do you see?
Man, that's so hard. Honestly, it's so hard because I kept wanting to like, since the beginning, it's just one of those things where I just want to take like leaps and leaps and leaps. I felt like I got into this business when I was older, like I was like 34, and I felt like I have no time to waste. And I still feel that way. I have no time to waste. And maybe because I'm Arab, I just have a very morbid, like I always think I'm going to die tomorrow. And so for me, it's like, I just trying to build as much as I can for like my family, my mom, my kids, my sister, like everybody, so that if I'm gone, like everything is like good. And like, you know what I mean? It's good for them. So, I mean, the goal is just to keep growing. That's one of those things I don't want to, a lot of agents are just like, I want to hit this and then I want to just take it easy. And that's totally good. I wish I could be like that because then I can turn this off and just relax and spend time with my kids. But really the goal, to be honest, is to be able to spend time with my kids. And so I'm trying to have this become a well-oiled machine, and it's a work in progress, really. And for it to kind of run in the background, and have like give more to agents, give more to staff and to the people, and again, it goes back to trusting. I don't micromanage anybody on the team, no one, right? And again, it goes back to like, I hired the right people who I really trust and love and everything, and they got this, right? If I don't have any work, and I'm, I don't hear from my people like for a few hours, I'm not gonna be like, what are they doing? Like, okay, but when we have work, they're working round the clock, like, if we don't have work, that's on me, like I need to like think of something, brainstorm, hey, let's focus on this, let's do this, right? It's not a matter of like, I'm paying them for this time, like, if you don't, because that's the thing, when you're an agent, your work is up and down. When it's down, like, I'll give you an example. Sorry, I know I'm like, you guys are done.
No, this is great. I am loving this.
Okay, good. I'll give you an example. Like when things are slow in December and November, when it's starting to get slow, there are so many things. Don't think about this where it's like, oh no, I'm paying these people, they're going to do nothing, right? No, they're not going to do nothing. There's so much that you could be doing. Like, for example, come up with an email of writing reviews. Go get your admin to figure out, like, I can easily tell my admin, hey, please tell me who are the people, like cross-reference, who were my clients from this year, last year that didn't write a review, right? Okay, now I'm going to write a nice email. Please send this to every single person individual, like where it looks like it's individual. Send it to each one so that we can drum up more reviews, right? Let's say I want to clean up the database, right? Like, or I want to start like tweaking my templates, like my email templates, right? Or I want to tweak my process, or I want to think of like a client event. There are so many things that you can be doing in the slow times, right? That can help you. And you just need to like think of, brainstorm ways that you can give them tasks to be busy in those times. And sometimes, again, like they might have some talents that you didn't know they had. And now you realize you can give them more to do, right? Like more than what in those slow times, it's good because you can actually reevaluate, look at your business, clean up some stuff, improve on other things that you have been neglecting for the longest time. You can finally like start focusing on it. But yeah.
And I'm assuming that would be a good time to hire an assistant too, potentially. Like if you're looking to train somebody, definitely.
But I know how people are, people like in November, December, when things are slowing, especially in the beginning, when you first start to make real money. In the beginning, when it's slowing in November, December, you're panicking. You're like, oh my God, is this how it's going to be next year? So I feel like no one will be able to make that commitment and get a salaried person and expect that in January things jump back. But I think if you're making consistently a certain amount, like there's people that I talk to and I'm like, how are you doing? Why are you doing this on your own? Why? Like they're learning the database. They're learning, like, why? You shouldn't be doing this. They're sending emails out to their clients saying whatever, like, this is something that you need to like get someone else to do, right? And even there's comps sometimes, like if you teach it, honestly, like if you have smart people and you teach them things or specific things, like let's say there's an email that comes to me, I'll tell them like, and then like if I need to do a Zoom link, or if I need to like invite a bunch of people, or if I have team meeting, please invite them, please do this, please hook up my Zoom link, and like it's all done in the background, right? I was gonna say, like even comps, like let's say somebody asked me like, oh, can you tell me like what I can rent my place for? I literally tell them, hey, please pull up all the 1+ dens leased in this year, all the 1 den leased in this year, put it in a draft in my email. That's it. Because now it's in a draft. Now, even if I'm on the go, you know how like you can't get the nice looking button? You can't copy that on your phone.
I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
And then you have the ugly signature. You have the ugly signature on your phone when you have a new email, especially for a new client. So like I'd say, please put in my draft, right?
Yeah.
It's not because you're lazy. It's just like, you're on the road. You can't.
Yeah.
So they put on my draft, and then I just type up the email.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things. You're still going to be included. Oh, that's good. You're still going to be involved. There's still your touch. You can't expect someone to, and they're not copywriters either, right? Like I know some people that have a copywriter. They have a copywriter, they have a graphic designer, I know people who don't even have agents. They just have staff.
Right.
And they're a one-man show or one-woman show, and they're doing all the pre-cons, right? So they're not even doing showings, right? So they're doing pre-con, and they have like an army of staff that is doing everything, and they don't even need agents, right? So I mean, there's so much you can do, and it really depends on what you want to do. Do you want to be managing people? But it's there's so much to talk about. I'm just thinking about all the things, like all the times that you get burned. And
this could be a mini series. This is just part one.
Yeah, this is like a Netflix mini series that we're gonna.
Totally. But there's so many lessons that you're giving people, and I hope you know, for people who joined us late, this is recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later. You can send follow-up questions that I'm gonna put Nasma on the spot and say she will answer them if you send questions later.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna say one more thing. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to make this thing where, you know, I love my VAs so much. I told them, like, listen, for you to make extra cash, if you have a good friend who, you know, let's say a friend of mine is looking for a VA, if you want to recommend a VA, they'll give you like $100 Canadian for that referral. Instead of getting a company to be taking extra per hour, you can just get a direct person that is trusted, right? So I mean, it's not like they know 100 of them, but maybe that could be, if you want, you can tell me and I can figure it out. If they find someone, I can connect you. But I was going to say something for the contract. Oh my God, guys, try to get, like, you know, when you sign a contract, when you hire someone, not a VA, but when you hire someone in person in Toronto, there's a lot of laws, and it's so easy to get sued. It's so easy to get sued for anything, right? And so please, it's worth it. It's worth it. Get a lawyer, ideally an employment lawyer. Let them help you. Maybe if you have a contract from your broker of record or from whoever that has, or office manager that sent you a sample contract, that's fine. Please take it, send it to an employment lawyer. What's that going to cost you? $500, whatever. Okay. At least you're protected, and make sure that it's a solid contract, right? Same thing if you're firing. Firing is a whole other session. Be careful, right? That's a whole other thing. You can get sued, you know, the way you fire someone, if you do something like, and there's such a thing as a release form, right? You need them to sign that release. Like, there's just a lot, and you're in over your head. We didn't go to school for this. We didn't study university to be, you know, entrepreneurs or managers or, you know, business owners or hiring people. I studied engineering, like has nothing to do with sales, has nothing to do with managing people, has nothing to do with hiring and all the like repercussions of firing. I just had to go through hell to learn all these things, and it's painful, but that's, you know, that's what real estate and having your own business is. It's painful. It's tough. You're going to cry.
We love it.
That's how we love it, right?
Yeah, we always find,
Exactly.
But yeah, so anyway, so just be careful, be safe. It's not worth taking shortcuts. Speak to an employment lawyer, and that's what I would advise. That's
right.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help somewhere in their business right now, even if it's a little beginning for someone, even if you're not making 200 grand a year. You know what? If you feel like you've hit a ceiling and you're sitting at 75 grand a year, maybe take on something small, because that might be the push you need to get you to 150 to 200 to 250.
That's so true. That's so true. And I'm going to say one thing. When I hired, that's a good point, because a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I'm only making this much. Now I'm going to take a chunk of that and I'm going to give it to somebody else. Like, this makes sense. But again, think of the future. You're going to actually get to the next level. When I hired a person, like every single year, I have almost doubled every single year. So I never went backwards. Okay. Amazing. But I know some people that don't have an admin and are doing it on their own. They fluctuate up and down. Absolutely. They're just kind of like, you know, but one key thing, again, I want to mention is that I don't hire an admin thinking you're going to make money. If your goal is that you hire the admin to take it easy, if you hire the admin to take it easy, that's okay. Just don't expect you to be on the next level, right? Because some people, I know some people, they hire an admin, but they really just want to like let the admin do everything. I don't want to do anything, right? So
You got to put more work in as well.
If you're doing it for 3 extra months of vacation, you're not necessarily going to double your business. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's fine. That's totally okay. I mean, you can do that, but just don't be surprised,
That's right. Yeah. This is called level up. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not level,
there you go.
Not level out.
Level out.
So,
that's funny.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Right on.
Well, thank you, Nasma. We really appreciate your time. And honestly, I think this was like such an awesome valuable session. So many people got so much out of it. So thank you.
I feel like you guys should be teaching it. I mean, I know you have your own brokerage.
No, you've got. You're the expert for sure. We learned a lot.
We're going to look for more assistants.
Yeah, I'm going to hire.
yeah. That's funny. But I think I think you should. I mean, one more thing. Like when they get overwhelmed, that's when you should be hiring another one.
Your next one.
Because there's going to come a time when that person is extremely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to hire the next person. But anyway, there's a lot more. But thank you guys. Thank you everyone. I'm looking down to see like the comment. But thank you everybody for joining. It was so much fun. Thank you, Katie and Daniel. You guys are amazing. Thank you for everything that you do. I love these sessions.
Oh, you're welcome. And we'll have you back on the learning side soon. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Have a great day.
Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye.
Level up.